Right.
What can we anticipate tonight from President Trump?
I think it'll be a very uplifting speech that will diagram what's going to be going on for the next year or so and on into the future.
Mr. Secretary, what is going to be going on for the next year or so? What are some of your priorities that you can work with this president on?
Well, there are quite a lot. First of all, trade. We're going to fix Nafta and make it a fair deal, not just a free trade deal. Second, reducing regulations and the rules that burden and the permitting that burdens American business. Third, cutting taxes to help people make a better return and to stimulate the economy.
Let's quickly get to tax. There is some divide, Mr. Secretary, within the Republican Party on the border adjustment tax. Will we hear tonight where this White House stands on the border tax?
I'd be very surprised if it would be that detailed a presentation. Tonight is about laying out the themes. The budget announcement will come out in another several weeks, so it's a little ahead of schedule.
And with regards to Nafta, sir, do we have a timeline on when that work will get underway or when we can expect these trade agreement negotiations to begin?
Well, we're in consultation with the Senate Finance Committee and the House Ways and Means Committee now. That's the first step. Ultimately, there'll be a 90-day note issued, and that is what will really kick off the negotiations.
And when we talk about deregulatory policy, financial deregulatory policy in particular, there is a plan in the House to repeal and walk back parts of the 2010 Dodd-Frank legislation. Do you anticipate tonight, sir, that he will talk about specific deregulatory policies or the need for financial deregulation?
I think his regulatory deregulation program goes way beyond just financial. You have the EPA, you've got all kinds of rules. You have labor, you've got some rules that you cannot imagine that are blocking the growth of American business.
And Mr. Secretary, I know that you are newly confirmed just recently, this week, I believe. Today, officially correct, right after it. So what can we anticipate? What is your first item on your to-do list, Mr. Secretary, and what are some of the policy initiatives that we can expect coming from your department?
Well, much tougher enforcement. There's not a lot of point making trade deals if you don't enforce them.
Of China as well?
Everybody.
Specifically with China, what are you looking to do?
Well, you'll see when we announce the enforcement cases.
When can we anticipate that?
As soon as we have a proper case prepared.
And tonight, again, I know you're busy and we appreciate your time. What should markets be looking for? A lot of anticipation in the markets right now, Mr. Secretary. So what do you anticipate should they be watching out for?
Well, I think they should just be watching out as the president executes on his plan. Right now, we're being a bit stymied by the Democrats because they're dragging out the confirmation processes, including my own. They delayed it for weeks, and at the end of it, I got 72 votes. So what was the point of delaying it for weeks? There were only 27 negative votes.
Are there any Democrats, sir, who you think this White House will be able to work with on specific trade policy, on deregulatory policy as well?
Well, in trade, I got over 20 Democratic senatorial votes, so clearly there's a nucleus there that we can very well work with.
In the minute or so we have left with Mexico, we've heard a lot about Mexico coming from this administration, whether it's on immigration policy, but NAFTA. A lot of Mexican government officials are concerned about how the renegotiation of NAFTA will impact them. Is that a point of leverage, Mr. Secretary, that this administration feels they have? And do we anticipate President Trump tonight to allude to NAFTA specifically in his speech?
Well, he's certainly going to talk about equalizing the way the tax regimes work, both in terms of what they do to help exports and in overall terms, and that's very much related. Mexico has a high VAT, value-added tax, and a relatively low income tax rate. So lowering our tax rate will begin to equalize things a bit. But they rebate the VAT on exports, and WTO so far hasn't been willing to permit us to do the same thing.
Final question for you, Mr. Secretary. 1 year from now, in President Trump's first term, will the U.S. see more than 3% economic growth?
I think 2018 should be a very good year.